Magandang hapon, everyone. My name is James Beltrano, and I'd like to begin by accepting my nomination as next year's cultural chair. First, a little bit about myself. I'm a first-year kinesiology major going into sports psychology. I spent the first 9 years of my life living in the Philippines before immigrating here with my family in 2014. Growing up in the Philippines allowed me to fully immerse myself in Filipino culture. I experienced so much of what our culture offers and teaches, even at a young age. But after leaving that chapter of my life behind, I can honestly say I started to lose that sense of closeness with my culture. I spent my adolescent years in a small town in the middle of California where Filipino resources were limited. Aside from what I experienced at home or through a few family friends, there wasn't many ways to stay connected with my roots. So, when I got to college and saw how big the Filipino community was in this area, I knew I couldn't pass up the opportunity to join PAC. From the very beginning, I was expected to celebrate and reconnect with my culture. And now, after experiencing a full year with PAC, I can say that I found that joy again. But at the same time, something still felt missing. I realized that the Filipino culture wasn't as highlighted as I expected. It often felt overshadowed or even left behind. That's why I chose to run for this position, because I want to make a difference in how our culture is represented and celebrated within PAC. Within One Nation, PAC has slowly lost some of its cultural edge, especially in comparison to events like PCN. I want to become a pillar that others can look to, someone who can encourage the Filipino spirit in every member, even if they aren't directly connected to our heritage. More importantly, I want to be a bridge that unites One Nation through the very thing that connects us all, our culture. I know culture can feel intimidating to explore and learn about. And whether your cultural knowledge is deep or just beginning, no one should ever feel discouraged for wanting to know more. My vision for this position is to make it a platform where both new and returning Gen members can celebrate Filipino culture just as much as I do. I don't just want to teach. I want to inspire every member to start exploring their roots, whether that means learning about our history, language, dialects, food, and etc. Some ideas I have that align with this vision include inviting guest speakers to our Gen meeting. These speakers can bring fresh, unique perspectives on the topics we highlight in our cultural lessons. They could be PAC alumni, respected community figures, or members of Filipino organizations from across California. Another idea is to collaborate with PCN during cultural lessons. For example, we can bring on suite and dance coordinators to share insights on their traditional dances and their histories. To end my speech, I want to acknowledge the Filipino word kaisahan, which means unity. Filipino culture is grounded in the deep sense of unity and connection we all share. I want to emphasize that people make the culture, and real change isn't possible with just one person. I want to give back to the community that gave me such a life-changing experience in my first year of college. I want to help strengthen the bonds within the community, because we are all one, or as we say in Tagalog, kaisahan lahat tayo. Thank you to everyone who listened to my speech today. I hope you've given me the confidence to vote me as your next cultural chair. Thank you.
Good job. Your first question will come from Hannah.
In terms of planning, cultural chair is busiest in the spring semester because it is harder to front-load the spring work in the summer. Creating cultural lessons, planning P-Grad, planning PAC Poetry Night, being present at events, and going to CAP meetings are the main things you will have to handle. How will you balance all of these responsibilities alongside your personal life while still maintaining the cultural integrity and passion you strive to achieve?
Workload is definitely something that I struggled with a lot in my first year. And from the beginning I joined PAC, and just from all the events that I joined and managing that with my classes, I tend to struggle with that a lot. But as I reflected a lot in this semester especially, I found myself a little bit more motivated in terms of actually keeping up with everything that I need to do. First and foremost, I am a student first, so education will always be the front load of what I need to do. But in terms of what I'm going to plan for spring semester especially, I want to make sure that not only am I keeping up with my education, but also making sure that I continue having that passion and that motivation. Even if I don't have stuff planned out for spring semester entirely from the summer, like you said, it's still really good for me to maintain that passion, same level of passion I have from now towards the end of the year, because again, like that passion will really carry over to all the things I'm planning for PPN or PGrad and every event that I really need to take. So again, it's really important to emphasize my own mental health, my personal life and personal goals as well. But one of those goals is making sure that me as cultural chair maintains that level of responsibility for the position.
Good job. You bored? You guys have a question, or we go with the question we got? All right. This question's a two-part question. Can you please explain the significance of understanding our culture and if our representation of our culture is lacking in PAC? The second part is, what would you do differently than your pred to be able to strengthen the cultural pillar without overshadowing the other pillars in PAC?
Can you repeat the first question, please?
Can you please explain the significance of understanding our culture and if our representation of our culture is lacking in PAC?
I'd say, again, what I touched on my speech, I definitely felt a sense of like a little bit of disconnect about within our culture in this club. I think the importance of making sure that we are giving back to the community is the best way for us to connect with our culture. I think it's just really, for me personally, I saw our club to be more social. To be known more social than cultural, which I found a little disheartening for me as personally. And I really want to emphasize getting back to community. Again, our community here, our Filipino community here is really strong and really large. And I question why we weren't using our numbers to really give back to the community, whether that's just through volunteering with our local community or even collaborating with other Filipino organizations, not just in SoCal, but even just towards California or whatnot. I think the importance of making sure that our connections with different organizations is really strong, because then that just presents so much more opportunities. And that's really why I want to bring in guest speakers to our meetings, just so that it really connects us more to the community. Again, I feel like there is some sense of like disconnect that we have between like just our community in general, between like other organizations and what they do to bring back to the community. One idea I had was collaborating with other colleges to really like again like maybe even clean up P-Town with them, or even things about like just collaborating more of the likes of just having our culture really represented. And I think that is something that is really important to me to emphasize, because again, like our culture as it is for here, I understand, I have two different perspectives from just living there and also being here. And again, like I, for one, have lost a lot of what I know about our culture, but it's really bridging those two together is what I really want to do and want to start trying to do. Because again, culture is really important to me, and culture really is what brings us all together. And then, what was your second question?
I mean, I think you low-key answered it.
Oh, okay.
You're good. But yeah, questions open for the floor. Go ahead, Nate.
You're not in term anymore.
So, you're not just representing culture, you're shaping it for the next generation of PAC members. What legacy do you want to leave behind as cultural chair, and why should PAC trust you to do it?
My legacy, I definitely I don't want this position to be just something that can teach people. I want to really emphasize that this position is a pillar for those people to start. Culture, again, what I said in my speech is that culture really is difficult, especially if you weren't, let's say, born in the Philippines or like lack the information or the knowledge about our own country and our own culture. It's definitely really difficult to start. But I want to be that pillar for people to really recognize and look at, to really inspire them to start. Because again, I'm looking at this as like the bigger picture. Whether or not that is just starting small, that is still a difference. I just want to help people be able to start learning and be comfortable with learning their culture. Whether that's just like small lessons between just like Tagalog lessons, or even like just history of or whatnot. Because again, like even for me, I'm also learning, so it's really good. It's a good balance of learning, of teaching teaching others, but also teaching myself. Because there is so much more about our culture that I don't know. So why not teach it and learn it together? And I think that is one thing I really want to emphasize and want to leave as my legacy, and that's why I ran for this position.
As we know, the pillars have Kapatid month, and it tends to usually be overpowered as more of a social month with PAC assassins. Give us some ideas that you have to match the social and other pillars and help spread more about Filipino culture during this month.
For Kapatid month, again, I definitely want to start incorporating a little bit more closeness with the Gen members, whether that's just reaching out or even like giving opportunities for them to start learning. Because again, it's really hard to start. One of my ideas for 4 points for the point system itself is to start having mini lessons and collaborating with PR chair to have just mini slideshow lessons that can really put the topics that I want to say, and they could really research those topics and then later send me videos of them either speaking in Tagalog phrase or speaking in their dialect or even just anything like that. I feel like just being sent those videos or being sent those messages that they're learning and all the stuff that they're learning about is really a good measure for me, just because that shows me that they're trying to learn. And I think that's more than enough for me to really accept, because again, even the smallest bit of just learning is really important. So 4-point system for sure, that's a really good start.
Oh, go ahead.
Since you work so closely with philanthropy chair, what duties does cultural chair have versus philanthropy chair, and how will you differentiate and clearly split up the work together?
The difference between philanthropy chair and I'm definitely working more towards the culture here, per se. My role is to really spread, again, information and also encouragement to the Gen members here about our culture. And then for philanthropy, it's again reaching out, it's that outreach to other Filipino orgs. And the way that we can collaborate is again bringing in those orgs to here to speak, or even going to their events as PAC to really really make that closeness there. Splitting the work between us is definitely something that I think will be just easy in a way that it's just communicating and just collaborating and making sure that the communication between the orgs and ours and stuff like that, and all the plans that we have to do, it's just that.
So in your speech, I know you're talking about having cultural lessons with PCN, but can you just talk about an example of a cultural lesson that you would like to do just for yourself, by yourself?
Oh, just a regular.
Yeah, an example.
Yeah, I do. Okay, I'll basically present this like I'm doing a cultural lesson. Okay. Hello everyone, I'm James Beltrano, and today I will be teaching you the historical significance, translation, and pronunciation of the first few lines of our national anthem. I'm sure everyone here knows the very first line of our national anthem, but even if you don't, that's completely okay. And that's why I'm here to teach you about. Okay, so basically, the first line says, Bayang Magiliw, which means loving country. Now, can I have everyone repeat after me? Ba, yang, ma, gi, liu. Bayang Magiliw. Okay, and then the next line says, Perlas ng Silanganan, which translates to the Pearl of the Orion. Okay, can everyone, once again, repeat after me? Per, Las, nang, si, lang, nga, nan. For less ng silanganan. That's good, that's good. Okay, that's about it.
You are not good.
That's it.
Alright. That was 6, right?
Six.
Six.
Congratulations.